Hey everyone, it's Zach Beck. Personal finance can be confusing, especially if you were not taught about finances growing up. But if you want to build wealth and be strategic with your finances, there are a few steps that you need to take. Number one, you need to avoid debt. Number two, you need to spend as little of your income as possible, and then you need to go and invest the difference. Now, there are various steps that you can take beyond this by investing into specific accounts, and that's what I want to talk about in this video, because we have both taxable accounts and tax-deferred accounts that exist in our society, and if you know how to utilize these properly, it can help you move forward and achieve your goals. So let's take our time, dive into the details, and jump into them right now. Alright, so taxable accounts are standard accounts that are used for both saving and investing. You can access your funds at any time, there are no limitations on how much money you can contribute, and you can use your finances for anything that you'd like. Furthermore, you're going to find there are no tax issues associated with this, you just pay standard taxes on them when you actually do your investments. Now, there are various approaches that you can take when it comes to taxable accounts. There are brokerage accounts, money market accounts, CDs, as well as high interest savings accounts, all fall into this particular category of taxable accounts. Now, a tax-deferred account, or what's often referred to as a tax-advantaged account, is something very different with specific guidelines and set amounts of money that you're allowed to put into them, as well as certain tax limitations long-term. For example, specific accounts that fall into this category would be 401ks, 403bs, 457 accounts, traditional IRAs, as well as HSAs or health saving accounts. Now, these all have certain stipulations on them and they're tax deferred. With that being said, now I want to talk about the specific accounts you or I should consider opening as someone who wants to be wise with our investments and achieve our long-term financial goals. The first one is this: open up a retirement account. Now, you can move forward and look at the one that works best for you, but there are various options that exist out there. First would be a 401k. Now, a 401k is a tax-deferred account, meaning you pay your taxes after you've invested them, they're pre-tax, and what you can do is invest up to $19,500 into your 401k and utilize that investment going into the stock market. Oftentimes, this type of account is offered by your employer, and your employer might match the amount that you contribute into this account, which is also great from the amount that that's going to help you grow over time, because basically it's free money. So one thing to look at with a 401k is you cannot touch this money until you're 59.5 years old. Now, 403bs and 457s fall into a similar category, but they're offered to different types of employees, generally in the public sector. So if you're going to move forward on that direction, you will have certain stipulations, but with a 457 account, you're not going to be penalized in the same manner from withdrawing the money before the age of 59.5. It's a benefit of when you're actually working as a public servant, you can have this tax advantage. So something to consider if you have that option or opportunity provided to you. One of the main benefits of investing, whether that's into a taxable account or a tax-advantaged account, is the benefit of compound interest. Now, compound interest is often referred to as the eighth wonder of the world because it allows your money to grow exponentially. Because as you're putting money into your account, you're going to find that over time you will actually grow a significant amount more money as you invest it in comparison if you just saved it. I will put a compound interest calculator in the description of this video. Feel free to plug in the numbers to understand. You can also look at the rule of 72, which is basically if you take 72, divide that by your annual rate of return on your interest, that will provide you with the amount of time it will take to double your money. So you can utilize that rule, you can go into the compound interest calculator, calculate what works best for yourself, but I'd strongly recommend having that as a motivating factor for you as you're deciding to invest money into accounts such as a 401k, a 403b, or even a 457 account. When it comes to investing, prioritize allocating a set percentage of your income into these set accounts. So if you take 3%, 6%, all the way up to 15 or 20%, whatever it is for you, make sure that you're allocating money on a monthly basis into these accounts to make sure you're growing over time to benefit from compound interest. Another account you can consider is a traditional IRA. It works very similar to a 401k where it's pre-tax, but the difference with this is you're limited up to $6,000 of investments into a traditional IRA. So if you're looking to do this, there's actually another alternative, which is called a Roth IRA, which is post-tax, meaning that you're actually paying your taxes initially on this. Then as you invest into a Roth IRA, your money grows tax-free until the age of 59 and a half when you're able to take that money out. Now, when you're looking at the difference between these two, you can invest up to $6,000 total into both accounts. So what I like to do is I only have a Roth IRA instead of a traditional IRA, and it just depends upon what works best in your own circumstance, your employment situation, and what type of benefits are offered by your employer. A health savings account is another tax advantage account, and if you have a high deductible healthcare plan, this could be a great opportunity for you because it has triple advantages from a tax perspective, but specifically it's associated with utilizing this account towards health-related expenses long term. One of the benefits of a health savings account, though, is that you can actually turn that into an investment account that in essence turns basically into like a Roth IRA over time. The tax benefits of this is this money is pre-tax, so there's no taxes paid up front when you invest it. It then limits your overall liability for your income tax on an annual basis. And then when you take the money out long term, there are no taxes paid if it's for a qualified medical expense. Furthermore, your employer might even match components of this as well. So if you qualify for a health savings account and it works with your current healthcare plan, it might be a worthwhile avenue to pursue because it can grow some benefit for you long term. And also, like I said, you can almost turn this into an additional retirement account if you don't have those same kind of medical expenses after the age of 59 and a half. There are other kinds of accounts that are taxable, such as a brokerage account. I mentioned this previously, but if you want to just invest directly into the stock market, not having to worry about any sort of tax advantages or specific age or limitations on being able to take that money out of the account, a brokerage account is a great option for you. There are various companies that exist out there for you to utilize. I personally utilize Wealthfront. I'll put a link in the description for you to check them out. But basically, if you just want to invest directly into the stock market, this is a great thing to do. Now, personally, what I do is I have both a 401k and then I have the Roth IRA, then I have the brokerage account. So it enables me to have various components of this filled. So my long-term tax savings are there, but then I can invest the money that I wasn't able to invest into the 401k or the Roth IRA, I can put into a brokerage account. So this might be a worthwhile avenue for you to pursue if you're looking for another area to allocate your finances. Many of the benefits associated with a brokerage account is that you have easy access to your money, you have a bit more investment options that exist, and it's definitely better than just a sole savings account because your money is going to grow over time as you're putting it into the market. Now, brokerage accounts do have taxes associated with them, but there are a couple ways for you to limit your tax liability. The first would utilize tax loss harvesting. Now, that's one of the reasons I love utilizing Wealthfront because they automatically do tax loss harvesting as part of my investment approach. In addition, if you do invest, make sure you're investing in the long term because if you do not hold your companies long term or your stocks long term, you'll then have to pay short term capital gains, which oftentimes wipes out the interest that you've gained over time. Furthermore, another thing you want to consider is prioritize tax efficient investments such as municipal bonds if they exist out there. There are a couple different ways that you can do to lower your tax liability in investing into these types of accounts. Another important account to always be aware of is a high interest savings account. Now, high interest savings accounts are not as prevalent right now because the Federal Reserve has reduced interest rates down to 0% for the foreseeable future. So what you're going to find is that the average yield a couple of years ago might have been like 2 or 3% on some of these accounts. Now it's like 0.35% if you're lucky. So it's something that you want to do because you do want to keep some money in cash. You don't want to have all your money in the investments, but you want to have, if you're at least investing into an account, do it into a high interest account as opposed to just saving your normal type of savings account with your bank because those are going to pay like 0.03% if you're lucky. But if you can get 0.5% or maybe even up to 1% on your savings, that's great because that will help you maintain, keep up with inflation. So generally speaking, high interest savings account are a great way to go. Another critical area that we need to allocate our money into is an emergency fund. Now, an emergency fund should be 3 to 6 months of your average living expenses, so that way in case a rainy day hits, you can cover that. Now, this is very important to note, especially given the pandemic we recently went through. The importance of having money set aside in case of an emergency is essential. Now, I'm very sorry if you have lost your job, been furloughed, or had some sort of a challenge over the pandemic that has caused you to utilize all of your emergency fund, but now you're having to build it back up again. However, it's something that is good to have in case that emergency ever were to arrive. Now, you might just want to start allocating a set percentage of your income into this until you reach the amount needed, then stop. You don't necessarily want to have more money in your emergency fund. Then you either want to put that money into a high interest savings account, into your brokerage account, into your Roth IRA, your 401k, or whatever it is for you. But make sure you get up to that point so that way if you lose your job, if you have some sort of health issue, if you have something that you cannot foresee occur, at least it will take away the stress of knowing that you can cover your expenses for 3 to 6 months. Another thing I believe is important is to have a target fund. And this is if you want to buy a house, if you want to buy a car, if you're doing something like investing in college for your child, whatever it might be, setting up sort of a target fund where you're putting money specifically dedicated or earmarked for that particular issue allows you to set that money aside without even having to think about it. And then as time progresses over time, you will be able to achieve that goal. Now, this fund could either be a brokerage account, a high interest savings account, or something else, but hopefully it's something that is set aside specifically and solely for the purpose of achieving that goal that you've set out for yourself. Now that we've discussed the differences between taxable accounts and tax-advantaged accounts, I believe it's just important for us to always understand the broader financial principles that we need to employ in our lives when it comes to achieving our long-term financial goals. And they are as follows. Do everything you can to cut spending in your life. Do everything you can to save money in areas where you don't necessarily need to allocate additional resources. Furthermore, try to avoid lifestyle inflation. Don't just spend more money because you're making more money. In addition, avoid debt at all costs. Debt is just a weight on your shoulders that prevents you from moving forward and achieving your long-term goals. And lastly, make sure you're investing your money strategically into the stock market, into these accounts that I've talked about previously, whether that's a 401k, a Roth IRA, an HSA, a brokerage account, a high interest savings account, or anything like that. Make sure you're putting your money into these various accounts. And if you do the investments into the stocks, I like to use index funds because they have a good track record, but make sure it's something that you fully understand. And when you begin applying these strategies long term, it's going to help aid you in your ability to achieve your long-term goals. That way, if you weren't provided with all of that necessary information from an early age in life, you weren't taught about money in school, now you can begin to allow these things to become prevalent in your life so you can move forward and have more freedom in your life and more security in your life. And quite frankly, that is the main reason why I want to share these things with you, because I grew up not knowing much about money. I wasn't taught much about finances in school, and then when it came time to make big decisions like purchasing a home and having debt, I didn't really know what to do, and I found myself making poor financial decisions as a result of that. So I'm hoping that through the experiences that I've gone through to where I am now, where I have saved a lot of money, I'm investing a lot of money, I'm able to do all these things in a manner, not in a braggadocious way, but just to show you that you can go from having a lot of debt to having a good amount of investments over time, working towards longer term objectives if you are diligent, if you are strategic, and if you understand how these various accounts and these systems work. So I'm hopeful that this information is helpful for you and can allow you to move forward and achieve your goals. With all that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. If you wouldn't mind, please like the video. That would really help the channel out for the YouTube algorithm, help push this video to other people who might want to hear it. Furthermore, if you have any questions, please comment down below. I'd love to interact with you, get to know you, do any research on your behalf, and that way I can help you make wise financial decisions moving forward. In addition, if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the channel. That would mean a lot to myself personally, as I do everything I can to create content that will make meaningful impact in your life by encouraging you and myself to lead lives of meaning and purpose, all while maintaining balance and moderation. And if you do subscribe to the channel, please tap the notification bell. That will notify you every time I post a video, which I do on a weekly basis. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. I hope you have a wonderful remainder of your day. Talk to you next time.